Press of Atlantic City. Mike, before I ask you about high school baseball, though, one, does Ben Revere have any more home runs in him for the regular season? And two, did you try the 9-patty burger at Citizens Bank Park last night?
No, I did not try the 9-patty burger at Citizens Bank. I did, however, walk past the place that sells it. And, I think the thing for fans to remember is one hamburger at that place costs $7.50. I believe the 9-patty burger costs about $37. So if you buy the 9-patty burger, you're actually saving yourself about $30 in savings. Now, it's true it's only one bun, but if you can sneak 8 buns past the metal detectors into the park, you might have yourself a $30 savings up there at Citizens Bank Park this summer.
You can't pass up savings like that. What about Ben Revere? I'm Mike McGarry covering that Phillies on deck series game last night. Does this guy have any home runs left for the regular season?
Well, it's interesting. Ryan Sandberg, I saw Ryan Sandberg over the winter during the Phillies winter caravan, and even before yesterday's game, he said he believes Ben Revere can hit with power. Maybe not hit 15 home runs, but he believes that, Ben can drive the ball, put the ball in the alleys a little bit more, hit for more doubles, hit for more triples. He believes Revere has that type of power, and then Revere goes out and lines one into the stands last night to win the game. So, and he says, Sandberg says he believes that because he sees Revere drive the ball in batting practice every day. So maybe this is a harbinger of things to come. But, I guess, we'll wait. The proof will be in the pudding. I'll wait till the season starts. But, Ryan Sandberg's a believer, so, take that for what it's worth.
And then finally, before we get into some high school talk, how much are the fans going to need that extra hard alcohol that the concession stands are selling at the bank this season?
Well, I think it's a tough year, and I think it's a tough year from this perspective. I mean, the Phillies have made no bones about the fact that this is a rebuilding season. Unfortunately, a lot of the people or a lot of the players that they're kind of putting their hopes in aren't even at the major league level yet. The Malachi Francos, the Ben Lively's, the Aaron Nolas, the J.P. Crawfords, they are still in the minor leagues. So I think it's a tough season. It's a transition season, and I think the toughest thing about it is it's you can't point to Grady Sizemore or Jeff Francoeur or Carlos Ruiz or even Chase Utley and Ryan Howard and say, hey, when the Phillies supposedly are contenders again in 2017, 2018, those guys are going to be there. So I think that's what makes it a little bit of a tough watch this season, is that the players that they're kind of counting on to be that next core aren't even in the major leagues yet. I think that's what's tough about this season for Phillies fans.
All right, consider that bonus coverage from Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City. Now we'll get into some high school baseball talk. And, Mike, let's break down a few of the games you had a chance to cover so far in this young season. This week, of course, opening day was Wednesday. You were out in Millville as the Mainland Mustangs went on the road at the Thunderbolts. I was there as well, and that was a hell of a game for opening day.
Yeah, very entertaining game, back and forth, a lot of drama. Of course, Mainland rallies Anthony Capasso in his first varsity spot, sophomore catcher. He kind of doesn't corral a cold third strike in the bottom of the 7th inning, allowing a Millville runner to reach base. That Millville runner comes around to tie the score, make it a 3-3 game. Then, of course, as so often happens in baseball more than any other sport, Capasso comes up for his first varsity at bat in the top of the 8th, singles to left field, and Mainland wins the game 4-3. And Matt McLaughlin with a fantastic catch that you can see some video of on our website to sort of end the game, a leaping catch at shortstop. And then, Mainland kind of picking up where they left off last season, the state Group 3 champions, defending state Group 3 champions. They seem to win games like that, one-run games, close games for plays like that all last season during the playoff run. And they start with an opening season win at Millville, and then they back it up with a win over Oakcrest on Thursday. So Mainland off to a solid 2-0 start.
Yeah, you talk about the finish of that game, and if Matt McLaughlin doesn't come up with that acrobatic catch, Millville wins. It truly comes down to if he makes that play, Mainland wins. If not, the Thunderbolts win that game.
Right, exactly. If he doesn't catch that ball is in the gap, and Millville wins the game 5-4, and they've got some momentum going forward. So, I think Millville is a very young team. I was very impressed in that game with by sophomore pitcher Buddy Kennedy. I believe he struck out 7 or 9 batters. He went 6 innings. He pitched great. Buddy Kennedy, of course, is the grandson of former major leaguer and Vineland resident Don Money, former Philly, former Milwaukee Brewer. So he's got some bloodlines there. I think Millville, they seem to think that maybe they're a year away, that you have a lot of sophomores in that lineup, but they showed right there on opening day that they can contend with a defending state Group 3 champion. So I think both Mainland and Millville able to take positives away from that opening day game.
And then the next day, if I'm not mistaken, you're in Absecon to cover Holy Spirit versus St. Augustine, and sort of one-sided there. We've seen some great matchups between these teams across all sports, certainly on the diamond as well, but we got off the phone with Mike Bailone earlier on in the show, head coach of the Hermits. This is another St. Augustine team that's loaded this year. How impressed were you with the Hermits?
Well, very impressed, especially with pitcher Mike Vistoria. I mean, he's going to Maryland, a 6'4", 6'5" junior. It was a cold and windy day, and he threw a one-hit shutout in 5 innings, and he took only 48 pitches to do it. So nobody was happier than me, that he worked that efficiently. Had a tremendous curveball, pitch to contact, 2 strikes, didn't waste pitches. Just looked like a pitcher that was smart, knew how to pitch. And of course, he's already got a scholarship offer to the University of Maryland, and you see why that day. And again, it's the St. Augustine team built on pitching. Last year, you had Joe Gatto, who's now in the Angels organization, Zach Warren, who was drafted by the Pirates. Those 2 guys sort of leading the way. This year, you've got Vistoria, you've got Billy Chilari, and you've got Anthony Midori. So again, baseball, pitching, and defense, and St. Augustine again with 3 top pitchers to build their program around.
So Mainland coming off a state championship. We touched on the Mustangs. St. Augustine coming off a Diamond Classic championship. We just touched on the Hermits. Buna Regional coming off a Group 2 state championship last season. Loaded once again. Of course, the big news this week, Buna beats Pleasantville. Final score 52-3. And Mike, I know you weren't there, but certainly this is gaining a lot of traction in social media. I mean, people really jumping in on both sides of this thing. What's your take on that game? I mean, it's an unfortunate situation for both teams. It's certainly a mismatch on paper. It turns into a mismatch once the game is played as well.
Yeah, I think it's an extremely tough spot for both teams to be in, and I don't think it's fun for anybody to be involved in a game with that. I think in our paper today and at pressofac.com, John O'Kane I think did an excellent story where he talks to people on both sides, Buna and Pleasantville. Talked to Mike Gatley, the Mainland athletic director and the president of the league. I think it's an unfortunate situation. I think it got out of hand. 52-3 doesn't sound good for anybody. The comment that I'll go to from John O'Kane's story is a comment from the Pleasantville coach who said in our paper and in the story that the Buna kids and coaches were gentlemen about the situation, and he said and he also praised his kids for hanging in there and being gentlemen also. And if that's the comment from the losing coach, I mean, that's what I'm gonna hang my hat on. I think when people look at 52-3, there's an immediate reaction, and maybe going forward, Buna might handle things a little differently. Pleasantville might handle things a little differently. But I'm going to point to the comment from the coach of the Pleasantville team, the team that was on the short end, who said that Buna acted like gentlemen and praised his kids for persevering through, some adversity there, and said his kids acted like gentlemen. And I think that's what you got to go by. A lot of people are commenting on that game. And they weren't at the game; they didn't see what happened. So, I think going forward, everybody wants to avoid a 52-3, and going forward, both teams might do something different. But I'm going to come back to that quote by the Pleasantville coach in the story by John O'Kane today in our paper and at pressofac.com.
Mike, how good could this Buna team be this season, and not even factoring in that 52-3 decision? Again, that's sort of a mismatch. But when Buna matches up against some other elite teams this year, I mean, this Chiefs team has a ton of talent returning from that state championship a year ago. I know I talked with head coach Harry Gross before the season, and he said, hey, we don't really have a weakness. He really likes his team's chances. And you talk about a lights-out pitcher leading the way, and that has to be Denny Brady.
Yeah, I mean, they've got Denny Brady back, and I did a big story in Sunday's paper. I called him kind of the Roy Hobbs of Buna Regional, after the guy in the natural kind of came from a mysterious background and became, led the fictional New York Knights to victory. Well, Denny Brady kind of homeschooled growing up, didn't play Little League, just played travel baseball. Not many people knew about him when he got to Buna, and all of a sudden he's out Buna, and he's one of the top baseball players in the state now as a senior. He pitched Buna to a state championship. They've got him back. They've got Marco Rios back at shortstop. They've got Dom Lopez back. They've got a tremendous amount of talent, and the way the Cape Atlantic League aligned their divisions this year, Buna is going to play some teams that do not have the strongest baseball traditions and have kind of traditionally struggled, like a Pleasantville. Buna's got games coming up against schools where Buna is going to be vastly superior to those schools. So I mean, that's going to be a tough situation for both Buna and those schools. The good thing for Buna is they do have a strong non-conference schedule. They go out and beat a good Morristown team opening day. They will almost assuredly get the Cape Atlantic League National Conference invite to the Diamond Classic, so they'll get in that tournament. So we'll get a chance to see what Buna is about, in many big games the rest of the season.
What about some other teams, high school baseball teams, Mike, to keep an eye on this season? We've touched on the Hermits of St. Augustine. We've talked about the Chiefs of Buna. We've talked about the Mainland Mustangs. Who are some other teams? I know for me, certainly in Ocean City, Cedar Creek, maybe even in EHT, a few more teams to certainly count on making some noise this year.
Yeah, I think you look at EHT, the opening day, they drop a close one to St. Augustine. They lose 3-1, then they come back with a win, so they're 1-1. They've got some veteran pitchers over there at EHT. I think a team to watch, Absegami with Matt Ardente. I know they won their opener. Matt Ardente's a kid who's headed to Seton Hall, outstanding outfielder and pitcher. I think they play Millville coming up this Thursday. They're a team to watch. And I think, you said Ocean City with Sean Mooney and Zach Alteri. I think Ocean City makes their annual trip to Florida for a couple games this week, so I'll try to catch them when they come back from Florida the following week. But I think Ocean City is a key team to watch. The last couple of years they've been in that national conference. Now they're up in the American Conference this year, where they're going to be playing Millville twice, St. Augustine twice, Mainland twice. I think that'll be a lot of fun for Ocean City. So I would kind of look at those three teams. I think EHT has been impressive the first week of the season. I think Absegami with Matt Ardente, Seton Hall signing is a team to watch. And, of course, Ocean City, with the talent they have playing the American Conference teams this year, I think those are three other teams to kind of look for the rest of the season.
Can't let you go without talking a little bit of track and field, and I know you're a big track and field guy at most of the major meets. I mean, what are some storylines, if we're talking track and field, certainly in the Cape Atlantic League, to keep an eye on this season? I know the EHT girls program, maybe that under-the-radar program that can certainly make a lot of noise this year.
Yeah, I mean, I did a story about them in this week's paper, and I think, the theme of the story was, if there was a team that was 23-1 the past couple of years, that won 2 Cape Atlantic League championships in the past 3 years, 4 county titles, if they were a football, baseball, and basketball team, they'd be getting headlines all over the place. Well, the EHT girls have kind of done that under the radar under Coach Erica Vasquez. So, kind of build them as the best Cape Atlantic League team you haven't heard about. Other great track and field stories to watch for. I think, Devin Grisbaum of Ocean City. She wins the cross-country meter champions title. She wins a 3,200 meter champions title in the indoor season. Now it's outdoor season. Can she kind of complete that triple crown, which would really be she's already had a historic season because no Cape Atlantic League athlete has ever won a cross-country MOC title and an indoor MOC title. But can she complete that triple crown this spring? I think that's really something special to watch. So, I say it all the time. The Cape Atlantic League, succeeds in track and field on a statewide level like it does in no other sport. And I think this year, should be no different.
And, Mike, where will you be today on this beautiful first Saturday of the spring sports season?
Well, I am actually headed back to Citizens Bank in a little bit. We have our big Phillies preview package coming out in Monday's paper before opening day. So I am headed up to Citizens Bank. It's only a day game, and it's a little early in the day, so I will not be attempting to eat the 9-patty burger, but I will be attempting to see if Ben Revere can continue to hit with power and see exactly what goes on up there at Citizens Bank.
Well, if you can't polish off all 9 patties, just bring a few back for Cole Raring and myself here in the studio.
I'll see what I can do.
All right, Mike McGarry, Press of Atlantic City. Appreciate the time. As always, enjoy the baseball game today, and we'll talk some more high school sports with you next week.
All right, thanks, Mike. Talk to you later.
You got it. Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City helping us